Good morning, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. It's me, Ari Dossett, Commoner Sheet, here with another live. Again, hit the like button, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Don't forget, donate in the links below. If you wish to contribute to the funding of my PhD, write PhD with your donation. Thank you. And you can also check my novels on Amazon. Thank you very much. It's morning now here in the Netherlands, in The Hague. It's raining outside. And I woke up early. I was in fasting and prayer. And I decided, let me make another live stream to address this following issue. Because this issue I'm addressing here, it was settled centuries ago. Actually, it was settled around 2,000 years ago already. But it's still something that believers are struggling with. And we shouldn't be struggling with this. But before I continue further, I see Maria is here in the live chat. Hey, Maria. Can you all hear me clearly? Let me know, please. Can you all hear me clearly? I want to check this first before I continue with the live stream. It's quite important you guys can hear me. Okay. I'm starting with a parable, okay? You have Jack. I know I use the name Jack a lot in my parables, but okay, just bear with me, Jack. Jack was born in a uh, in a on a farm somewhere in Minnesota. Jack's parents were not well off. Jack, however, during high school, he developed an interest in the medical field. Jack, however, had no money to go to to medical school. But Jack decided, I'm not going to give up like that. Jack eventually worked at the pharmacy. And at the pharmacy, uh, he managed to get a scholarship in a legal way. Jack became a medical doctor, eventually. He also became a surgeon, the best one in his field. But guess what? Most of the people around him that he grew up with, and most people he had around him during university, they did not welcome Jack's new position. Jack used to be this boy or this guy from the poor farmlands. That's how they used to call him. And now this guy from the poor rural area was the main medical doctor in the state of Minnesota. Now, people outside the state of Minnesota, across the United States, man, they welcomed him. Even especially abroad. But the people of his home state, especially his hometown, never did. Now, question to you. Why didn't the people in Minnesota, especially from his own hometown, accept Jack's new position as the main medical doctor of their state? Let me know in the live chat. What do you think? Why didn't they accept Jack's new situation? Let me know in the live chat. The parable's not done, but I want to ask you first, why do you think they didn't accept this new position? Let me know. I'll wait for 1 minute to see your answers. Maria said envy and his family. Well, straight up answer. Remember, Jack used to be from a poor rural family, an insignificant family to that small plots of land. And now this poor farm boy is the main medical doctor First of all, how did he get the money to study? How did he get access to that scholarship? I mean, he did it. So, long story short, decades go by. Jack doesn't get married, doesn't have children, but he dedicates himself fully to his work, but outside the state of Minnesota. Then one day, Jack is age 80 and he passes away. Now, question to you. 10 years after Jack passed away, there are some, how to say, there's someone needing surgery quickly, and they hear about this top medical doctor in Minnesota. So the guy that needs the surgery and his family, they travel all the way to Minnesota to find Jack. Question, can Jack perform the surgery on him? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know your answer in the live chat, please. So let me say the situation one more time. Jack dies at age 80, 10 years after he passed away. There's another guy somewhere, maybe let's say in California, who needs surgery immediately. And hear about this top doctor from Minnesota, this top surgeon. So this guy that needs surgery flies with his family all the way to Minnesota. Question, can Jack perform the surgery on him? Let me know in the live chat. What do you think? I'll wait for 30 seconds for your answers. All right, I got one answer, no. And absolutely, of course not. Jack doesn't live anymore. He died. So because Jack's body expired, because remember, as a human being, you are a spirit essence in a physical body. You need the physical body to be active in the earth. When your physical body expires, it means you can't be active anymore. Okay? So Jack, as the spirit essence, is not roaming around the earth. No. Jack, as the spirit essence, is in Sheol, the archive of the Heavenly Father, and he will remain there inactive till the day Jesus Christ returns and resurrects him in an immortal physical human body. That's the reality of the situation. All human beings, when they pass away, when their physical bodies expire, they, as a spirit essence, are in Sheol till the day Christ gives them a new immortal body. Simple as that, all of us. Question, can your grandfather, who passed away 20 years ago, let's say if a grandfather passed away 20 years ago, does he have to file his taxes? No. Can he vote in a presidential election? No. Can you go to visit him? No. You may visit the tombstone at the graveyard or the cemetery, but that's not him. It's just a monument to remember him. You get the picture here. People who pass away cannot rent flats. They cannot purchase houses. They don't go to the groceries. They cannot send you text message, check out on you. They cannot file for taxes. If someone committed a crime and they died, can the police come and arrest them? No. The police has let go of the case because the individual cannot be prosecuted. If you're about to get $10,000 in tax returns, but you die suddenly, guess what? The tax money can be received by your relatives, or the government keeps it. All I'm saying here is that when people pass away, it is over. They're gone. Now, Christ, God, the Heavenly Father Himself in human form, He will reverse physical death by resurrecting everyone. at the last day. Just know that when Christ comes back and resurrects everyone, it's not going to be like it is now. It's going to be a complete separation. Those who are saved will be stored on the earth and live here forever, and those who are damned will be in the lake of fire. Simple as that. So for this lifetime, for this era, when you pass away, it's over. It's over. No matter whether you pass away at a so-called old age of natural causes, or you pass away early due to domestic violence, or due to homicide or a terrorist attack, or you died by suicide, God forbid, by the way. If that thing crossed your mind, suicide, go and get help immediately. Go get help immediately. You need help. Amen? Your life matters. But anyway, it doesn't matter how they died. Once you die, once your body expires, it's over. I mean, the police will not waste any effort, nor waste any time chasing after a fugitive that passed away. The government will not expect you to file taxes if you're not here, if you're dead. I mean, if someone rents a house and they die, the so-called landlord, I can't stand the term landlord, anyway, so-called landlord or say real estate officer cannot be mad that they don't get any rent. The individual has to be living in the complex under a contract for them to pay rent. If someone signed a rental contract and they're renting a house, the real estate officer, if 3 months go by and no rent came in, they can they can hire a bailiff or debt collector, whatever. If the debt collector finds out the individual passed away, you're going to tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take this case. Because the individual you want to charge is dead. Well, try to charge his family or people around them. The debt collector will say it doesn't work like that. By the way, some debt collectors try to do this scam. You may have your grandfather or someone in your family that passed away, likely a parent or grandparent, and suddenly they go to the descendants or nearest family to charge the debt. It doesn't work like that. If someone owed money but they passed away, guess what? That money is gone. You're not getting it back. If you still try to get it from other people, you are out of your damn mind. Now, if a company or a business was, if someone had a business and they passed away and take over the business, now that's something different. But once somebody took over the business, how the heck are you going to charge people with it? So all I'm saying is that everyone understands when someone passes away, it's over. But for some weird reason, you have a lot of people worldwide who are worshiping their ancestors. I mean, just think about it. Those of you who are above age 40 likely witnessed some funerals already. I hope your parents are still alive, but hey, the longer you live, the more you'll notice that some people are going to pass away, especially for the people that are quote unquote older than you. I mean, if your grandmother or grandfather, or God forbid, one of your parents passed away, after the funeral, you can have a tombstone that you go to, or you can have pictures of your parents to remember them. But you know, it's just a memory. They're not there. You know they're not around. Why then are people worshiping their ancestors who lived sometimes centuries before them? Listen, when Jesus Christ comes back and resurrects the dead, your parents who knew you will remember you. Your grandparents maybe. Your great grandparents likely never knew about you. So at resurrection, they know who you are. I mean, just think about it. This worship of ancestors, it goes against common sense. You have people who pass away, so they are of no use in the present. When someone passes away, when someone dies, they become irrelevant in the here and now. Now, the influence of their lifetime may not be irrelevant, but they themselves have become irrelevant. Let me explain. Jackson, let's take Michael Jackson for example. He passed away a while back, 2009, I believe it was, yeah. I still remember, I was in my late teens when Michael Jackson passed away. Now, Michael Jackson's lifetime, during his lifetime, he was a musical legend. And he still is a musical legend, but he's a historical legend. He's not a living legend. His influence is felt till this day. Even people who can't stand Michael Jackson would think, who's Michael Jackson? It's not that important, it's not that relevant, or whatever. How they think and feel doesn't even matter. Thing is, Michael Jackson lived, he had an impact, and now that he passed away, his impact outlived him. His impact is still on the earth, even though he himself is not on the earth anymore. So the moment Michael Jackson passed away, he became irrelevant because he's not around anymore. However, his influence is still relevant. Let's think about, for example, um, people like, let's say Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. He passed away a long time ago. However, the things he did as a politician affect the future generations. So the impact of his life is echoing till today. That's true. But he himself is not relevant anymore. Okay, let me give you another example. Let's say, for example, when I was in Korea, worked and lived at a guest house. The moment I left the guest house, I did not live and work there anymore. I left uh, the group chat. Why? The group chat was meant for the employees that worked and lived there to be updated what goes on over there. Why would I stay in the group chat of that guest house if I'm not working or living there anymore? It doesn't add up. So the moment I left, I became irrelevant to that guest house. So I had to leave the group chat. When you are studying at university, you have a student card. You're relevant there because you're a student. The moment you graduate, your relevancy is over. Why? Because now you focus on the new students. Now you're still significant as someone who graduated there, but for the university directly, you're not relevant. If you work as a cleaner at the hotel, you may not be the manager, you may not be the receptionist, but as a staff member, you help to keep the hotel going. So you're still relevant there. The moment you die or you're fired or the moment you can't work there anymore, your relevancy ceases to exist over there. Now, as a memory, you may be significant, but you're not relevant. Look, if you are in a if you are in a legal battle and you need a lawyer specialized in, um, let's say, a lawyer specialized in trade, you cannot go to a family lawyer to plead the case for you. If you're in conflict with one of your business partners, I need a lawyer to plead your case in a court of law. You need a lawyer specialized in that field of trade. A lawyer specialized in family law. I'm sorry. Look, that he's specialized in family law is important because you have family conflicts out there, but you are not in a family conflict. You are in a business conflict. So because you're in a business conflict, that family lawyer he is important, but for you, it's not relevant. You need someone who specializes in trade. I mean, all of this is common sense. If you um, if you need to undergo surgery, You need a surgeon that's specialized in that field of doing surgery. For you to call for a nurse to do the surgery, I mean, what? Or for you to ask a lawyer or an electrician to come and do the surgery on you? What the heck? No. Who's relevant at that moment is a surgeon who specialized in the field of the surgery. If electric cables at your house malfunction, you can't expect a medical doctor to come and look at it. No, you need an electrician to come. So, why am I giving you all these examples? Because I want you to think for a moment. Worshipping the dead, worshipping people that pass away, it goes against common sense. It's insanity. Because in daily life, you would not employ nor involve people in your matters who cannot participate in the situation. If someone needs surgery, you cannot involve an electrician. The electrician may be needed in case the equipment in the hospital needs to be fixed, but that has nothing to do directly with people who need surgery. If you are learning French, you need someone who's already well equipped in French to help you with it. You can't help. You can't ask someone who has no knowledge of French, but have knowledge of Chinese to come help you to learn French. It doesn't work like that. So in daily life, we know we cannot involve people in a matter that they're either not qualified for or not ready for. For example, let's say you want to give your son a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, but your son's only 10 years old. Guess what? You shouldn't do it because your son is not ready yet to get his driver's license and to drive. So in life, we understand you cannot involve people who are either not qualified or not ready, or sometimes not willing to be part of something. Now, that not willing depends on situation. For example, if you live in the United States, you are obliged to get along with the laws of the land of the United States. You can't live in the United States. Let's say you live in the state of Kentucky. You can't live in the state of Kentucky and act like you live in the state of New York. No, you need to adapt to this. It's still the United States. You need to adapt to the state of Kentucky. Get a get a license plate from Kentucky, whatever. If you live, you can live in the state of Kentucky with a license plate from New York, but it's going to be quite odd because you're not in the state of New York. So whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter how unwilling you are. As long as you're in the state of Kentucky, you need to get along with the local laws of the state of Kentucky. If you don't want to, then you either be put in prison, or you'll be ostracized by the public, or you just have to leave and go to the place where you want to be. Even things like marriage cannot work unless both parties are willing to go for it. If only one party goes for it, the marriage should end because it's not going to work. So in life, we understand someone must be capable, qualified, and willing to be part of a situation for it to work well. Now, sometimes people just have to comply, whether they like it or not. When it comes to safety measures, when it comes to the well-being of the community, in that cases, forcing people is proper. Forcing people is not evil. It depends why you're forcing them for. But just understand, if someone is not qualified, nor ready, nor capable to be part of the situation, they should not be involved. Simple as that. How the heck are we involving those that pass away into our current affairs as the living? Doesn't the Bible say the dead know nothing? The love and the hate pass away? The dead know nothing. If you fall down the stairs tomorrow and break your knee and go to the hospital, your grandmother who passed away a few years ago, she doesn't know anything. The last memory she has of you was the memory before she closed her eyes permanently, the eyes of her first body. I mean, if tomorrow you graduate university, if your parents are not around anymore, you can go and visit their grave symbolically. And some people who are orphans do that. Once they achieve things in life as adults, they want to remember their parents. But the thing is that your parents are not aware you graduated. Now, it's still good to go to the tombstone or to process it that they're not around anymore, especially when you're transitioning for the better in life, but they're not there. The dead know nothing. Listen, there are even people alive who are not really capable. Think about people who are blind, people who are deaf, people who are paralyzed. So even people who are alive aren't automatically aware of things. What I'm saying is that this worshiping of the dead, this worshiping of ancestors, I'm telling you, we need to let that go. There's nothing wrong with having a funeral. There's nothing wrong with keeping pictures of loved ones who passed away, because those pictures will become a family heritage later on. If you have stuff that belonged to your great grandmother, whatever, those stuff can be preserved for historical research. Because today, a lot of historians they study older items from from previous decades for historical research. Sometimes diaries, sometimes just old cameras, all that. So if let's say your uncle who passed away had a collection of stamps, you don't have to throw away all those stamps. That's a waste. Hand them over to the museum. Then it can be preserved as a cultural heritage. Or if someone who passed away was a big fan of a cartoon character, you now can keep that collection and bless someone else with it who is also into cartoon heroes, whatever. So what I'm saying is, there's nothing wrong with keeping former belongings that belong to someone who passed away. I say former belongings because when someone dies, they have no belongings anymore. They have no possession anymore. Okay? They have no rights and duties anymore for that moment being. You can only have property, even in the world. You can only have property if you're alive. If you're not alive, you can't have property. And by the way, if you're alive but you're in prison, serving a life sentence, you can't have property. What I'm saying is look, keeping pictures, keeping some belongings of someone that passed away, that doesn't have to be a wrong thing to do, as long as you do it for a proper constructive reason. Now, if you keep belongings of someone that passed away, but as a form of holding on to them, now that's a problem. Now that's a big problem. Why? Because they're not around. If your husband passed away and you still keep all his belongings with you, I'm not okay. That you keep his belongings is not the problem in itself. But if you keep his belongings and you keep bringing Agnes if he's still alive, I'm sorry, lady, but you need some help. You need professional help. You need professional help to process this. If a loved one went missing and you're not certain whether they're alive or dead, I can understand you want to keep their belongings just in case they ever appear again. But but let's say someone went missing without a trace, or they vanished without a trace. It happens sometimes. Parents of children, where the children were minors or they were grown, so the parents keep belongings of their children who disappeared. There are many cold cases like this. A teenager or someone in a young adult disappears. Parents keep their belongings just in case they ever come back. But sometimes it happens that the parents now are trapped in the past psychologically and they can't move on because of that. No, I'm not saying that them keeping the belongings of the missing children is something wrong. It's not wrong at all. But the moment it becomes a stronghold onto you, now you are in trouble. Especially if a long time passes by. Look, if someone is missing for 2 months or a year or two, okay, I can understand. You want to keep you keep hope that they'll come back alive. But if someone's been missing over 5 years, there may be a probability they're not coming back or that they're dead. If someone's been missing for 20 years, oh Lord have mercy. I don't say it's impossible for them to appear again, but it's not that likely. There were parents who waited the rest of their lives for their son or daughter to return, and they never returned, and they died. And in those decades, they waited for their son or daughter to reappear, and it didn't. They became stagnant, they became backwards, and they became a hindrance to themselves and to those around them. Look, when people are alive, you are able to reconcile with them, make it up with them, and build relationships with them. Once they pass away, they're not around anymore. There's no way you can reconcile, there's no way you can apologize, no way you can mend relationships. It cannot happen. Look, again, there's nothing wrong with having a funeral. There's nothing wrong with having some belongings to those that passed away, or preserving them for future historical research or whatever. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But it becomes a problem when you don't embrace the fact they're gone. Look, let's say you love your wife. Let's say your wife dies and you truly loved your wife. You were dedicated, you were loyal and dedicated to the marriage, all of that. Listen, it's good you're loyal and dedicated. Guess what? The marriage is over. Why? Because your wife passed away. You can't sleep next to her anymore. You can't have sexual intercourse with her anymore. You can't impregnate her anymore. She can't say "I love you" anymore. She cannot text you back. She cannot be there for you to support you. No, she's not there when the grandchildren are graduating college. All of that. No, she's not there. If your wife passed away, you need to close that. You need to. I'm not saying that you'll ever forget about her and all of that. No, because you spent years with this individual. Just know she is not around anymore. You need to process that and learn to live with the fact she's not around. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. Every year that you're alive and it's her birthday, you remember, oh, wait, she's not around anymore. Hey, it can be difficult. Admit it, process it. Just know she's not around. As long as you process it, you can move on in life in the right now. Because there are people on earth now who are alive who need you. Your wife needed you. But guess what? Whether you were good towards your wife or whether you were a horrible husband, if you were good towards your wife, good. You're an inspiration. If you were horrible towards her, now you can repent and be an inspiration that way. But you cannot go back in time and do it over. No. Look, this topic of worshiping the dead, a lot of people may say, Rashid, I'm not worshiping the dead. I have no altar in my house with pictures of dead relatives. I don't go and to the graveyard often to talk to a tombstone. I'm not buying flowers for someone who's not around anymore, and then the flowers are laying there on the ground rotting away. I'm not doing that for shit. Okay, just remember, worshiping the dead comes in many shapes. It isn't just going to a tombstone over and over again and talk to the tombstone like a fish was there. It's not just having an altar into your house with pictures of dead relatives and you grieve every day. It's not holding onto the possessions of someone who passed away. Imagine you're still there while they're not there. Mm-mm. Worshipping the dead can also be that you model your daily life after their expectations. It's one thing for you to consider the expectations of those who are alive. I mean, if you work at, let's say, a hotel, you have to adapt your expectations. You need to arrive at work on time. You need to dress a certain way. If it's a uniform, you wear a uniform. You need to speak to the customers a certain way. Because if you're rude towards the customers, they will never come back and the hotel will get a bad reputation and the hotel will go bankrupt. So when you work at the hotel, you adapt to the expectations. Or let's say you're not working at a hotel. Let's say you are a guest at a hotel. You booked a night at the hotel. If there's a rule in the hotel, you have to be silent after midnight. Guess what? You ought to comply with that, or else you get out of the hotel. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, it's one thing to adapt to other people's expectations when they are alive and you're involved with them. For example, if you booked an hotel in Spain when you were traveling in Spain, and in the hotel you have to be silent after 10 p.m., guess what? You adapt to that. But let's say now you're back at home and you don't have any close neighbors. Are you still going to be silent after 10 p.m.? No. If you are in, let's say, Nebraska in the United States, you're on your own, you're in your own house, and there are no direct neighbors near you. There's no need for you to be silent after 10 p.m. But if you're always silent after 10 p.m., and people ask you, ask you why you're silent after 10 p.m., say, well, it's a rule of the hotel. People say, what hotel? That hotel there in Spain. We say, but dude, this is your own house. You know that hotel in Spain. Why are you modeling your behavior after the expectations of some hotel in Spain that you're not even at? What the heck? People are going to call you nuts. They're going to say, listen, you need help. Absolutely. But just understand, when people are alive and you're involved with them, you should consider their expectations and work it out with them. I'm not telling you to just unconditionally give in to whatever they want. It shouldn't be a one-way street. It should go both ways, but it's natural and required for you to consider those that are alive and you're involved with. If people are alive but you're not directly involved with them, it's you should still consider them, but you can't consider them to the extent that you model your life and your behavior after them. Now, you should still consider people around you, absolutely, even if you're not directly involved with them. That's proper, but you adapt more to the people you're closely involved with. Okay, for example, if a stranger across the street uh, can't stand rock music, then when you're around them, you don't mention rock music. But the thing is, you're not around them. So if you talk about rock music and you're at the bus station, they walk by, so what? They're a stranger walking by. If they can't stand the conversation, they move pass on. They move on, I mean. But if you have relatives or close friends who are not into rock music, they may not mention rock music when you're around them, just to keep the peaceful climate. What I'm saying is, when people are alive and you're involved with them, you should surely have to give more consideration to them. If you're not that involved with people, you should still consider them as a fellow human being, but deep consideration shouldn't be there because you're not closely involved with them. Simple as that. It's natural. You are more considerate to the people across the street in your neighborhood than you are towards people that live at outside of the country, which is natural. Because you're involved with the people close near you, close and nearby. Well, guess what? When someone passes away, you can be inspired by their life. You know what I mean? And based on being inspired by them, you learn from their life and you do better than them. You should do that. But you should not model yourself after those people. Let's say your grandma was married for 60 years to the same man. Your parents divorced, and your mom and dad were both sexually unstable. Okay? But the grandparents from your mother's side, man, they were married for 60 years. And now you think, I want to be just like them, staying married for the long run. So now you are copying the attitudes of those people who passed away. And let's say that you're married now, but you figure out very quickly that your spouse is toxic or even a narcissist. Now, you can't just suspect something and make a decision. You have to have proof. But let's say you have proof now that your spouse is toxic and dangerous. You realize now that you married the wrong individual based on wrong expectations. But now, because you have modeled yourself after your deceased maternal grandparents, now, to not disappoint your ancestors, you now stay in this functional marriage, harming yourself and your spouse, and also harming the whole environment. You stay in a situation that's dangerous for you, and therefore you perpetrate the bad situation onto others, including your own children, just because you modeled yourself after someone who passed away. I mean, what type of nonsense is that? And by the way, Even if your maternal grandparents had a great marriage for 60 years long, you are not your maternal grandparents. If your grandpa and grandma were sexually healthy and stayed together for 60 years, that's what's great for them. They're dead now. You have to become sexually healthy, and you need to look for someone who's sexually healthy too to have a marriage with. But what but what if you are not sexually healthy yourself? Or what if your spouse isn't? Are you going to stay in that bad situation just to continue the quote unquote legacy of your grandparents? Listen, your grandparents will pass away even if they had a great marriage. By the way, you don't know that. You just know they stayed married for 60 years. You don't know whether it was dysfunctional. You don't know whether your grandpa cheated on your grandma. You don't know whether your grandma cheated on your grandpa. You don't know any of those details. The only thing you see is that, hey, they were married for over 60 years. But you weren't there. You weren't there when they were married for 60 years. You didn't even exist yet. So you don't know how it really was. You assume it was a great marriage because it lasted for so long, but you don't know that because you also have toxic people staying together till they die. Doesn't mean that just because they stay together till they die does not mean it was a good thing. No. So even if your grandparents had a great marriage for 6 years long, they are not around anymore. If any time you need marriage counseling, you have to go to someone who's alive. They are not alive. They can't intervene for you. They can't pray for you. They can't do anything. Look, again, you should be inspired by those who passed away. Whether they were reprobates, the people were saved, doesn't matter. If someone was a horrible individual, be inspired to be better than how they were. If someone was a quality individual, learn where they had errors and become better. You should be inspired by those who passed away so that you can become better today. This is how we all have to be. But you should never model yourself after those who passed away. Anytime you model yourself after those who passed away, you are worshiping them. By the way, modeling yourself after people who are alive in an unhealthy way itself is idolatry, let alone if people aren't even around anymore. So modeling yourself after those that passed away is the same as worshiping those that passed away. So even if you don't have an altar in your house with pictures of dead relatives in it, even if you don't go to a graveyard continuously or a cemetery continuously talking to a tombstone, wasting flowers on the grave, even if you're not grieving 10 years after your husband passed away, even if you're not into all that unhealthy stuff, the fact you model your daily life after those that passed away alone, that alone is idolatry. That alone is dysfunctional. Because guess what? You should be inspired by those that passed away. But this thing, they passed away. They're not around anymore. You are here now. So you need to apply that inspiration you have of them in the now. If your great grandfather was a hard worker as a migrant and looked after his family to do the best of his ability, that should inspire you to make the best of your effort in your now too. So you have to translate that inspiration into practical action today. But for you to look up to your great grandfather was a hardworking migrant, and you adopt this hardworking mentality, even when it doesn't apply to you. Your great grandfather was a migrant. He had nobody helping out financially, so he had no choice but to work very hard with a low wage. You are a college graduate, so you don't have to work hard. You can work smart and have an easier life. Are you going to hold on to this hard work mentality that your great grandfather had? Listen, he had that hard work mentality because that's all he had back then, because he had nobody helping him out. You are a college graduate with a social network, so you shouldn't even be working hard. But now you are working hard while it's not necessary, stressing yourself out, bring disease of yourself, neglect yourself and others, endanger yourself and others, and for what? Because you have modeled yourself after your great grandfather was not around anymore? Are you kidding me? Seriously, are you kidding me? Look, anytime you model your current daily life, anytime you model your present life right now, after those who passed away, you are in idolatry. You should be inspired by them. And this inspiration has been translated in practical action for today. If you had a grandmother who was a reprobate, a narcissist, and she was a horrible human being, learn how horrible she was, admit it, and decide, I will not be like my grandma. And then learn for ways to be better than how she was. That is how it should be. If someone was horrible, you learn to be better than them. If someone was of quality, learn where you can be better. That's how you can honor your ancestors in the sense that you learn from their lives and you become better. So you don't make the same mistakes they did because you don't have the time to make all the mistakes. Some mistakes you can never recover from. So if you learn from the mistakes of your ancestors, they're not around anymore, but you still learn from their lives, that's honorable. Okay? You can honor your ancestors, but you should never model yourself after them. Oh, they did this way, so I'm doing it this way too. They did it this way, so I want to continue to do it this way too. Okay. If your grandfather was a good fisherman and you are a fisherman today, you can learn from what he did in the past and do today too. As long as you stay open-minded to the current developments of today. If your grandfather used to fish only with a small net, and you today can have giant big nets to catch a lot of fish, are you going to put onto small nets because your great-grandfather used to do that too? And miss out on good income? No. You learned from your grandfather who passed away, was a great fisherman, and now you become a better fisherman by using the modern technologies. I mean, let's say your ancestors never left their hometown. Are you also going to stay in your hometown till the day you die? Miss out on opportunities in life? No. You should be inspired by those who passed away. You should learn from their lives, whether they were good people or bad people, and become better and learn those life lessons of them, implement them today to live a better life now. You should honor your ancestors if, in a sense that, listen, they're not around for you to actually directly honor them. Honor them is more an attitude of I learned from their life, especially life's mistakes, so I end up doing better than them. That's what you should do. But you should never model yourself after them. When you model yourself after your ancestors, this is idolatry. And let me tell you what it does to you in here and now. It will block you in here and now. When you worship your ancestors, when you worship the dead, it blocks you in here and now. Why? Because if you model yourself after them, you should only model yourself after people who are relevant. You hear me? So our human mind is built for the here and now. You hear me? In your mind, there's only the here and now. The past is a reference. The future is a projection we have because the future hasn't happened yet. So the only thing your mind has is the now. So your mind can only function with the now. You hear me? Your mind cannot function with yesterday. So if in the past you were traumatized, as long as you don't process that trauma, according to your mind, the trauma is not happening. Maybe your father physically abused you and psychologically humiliated you when you were a little child. And now you're in your 50s. You have grandchildren yourself. But you're still haunted by what your father did to you. But your father has been dead for over, let's say, for over 20 years. Your father passed away a long time ago. But you're still angry, fighting your father, who's not even around anymore. How? You're so perfectionistic. You develop perfectionism just to prevent your father from attacking you. But the problem is that perfectionism did help you out in your career, but you have become a dysfunctional parent, dysfunctional grandparent. You've become a horrible spouse and a very hard individual to deal with. So you messed up your own life and you have been damaging other people in the process because you were fighting your father who was not even around anymore. Your mind only knows the present. So anytime you still feel bothered by things that happened in the past, that means that is you haven't processed it. You need to process it. Now listen, if you remember something horrible that happened to you and feel uncomfortable, that's healthy. You should feel uncomfortable with things that are bad or harmful. So if something bad happened 20 years ago, and you feel like suddenly reflect back and feel uncomfortable, doesn't mean that you haven't processed it. You have processed it, or it can be you're still in the process of processing it. Because some things take time to process. But just know your mind only knows today. So because our human minds only understands today, anytime you model yourself after someone who has passed away, you're actually telling yourself the individual is still alive. It is still relevant. But guess what? That's a lie. They're not alive anymore, so they're not relevant anymore. But by you modeling yourself after them, you tell yourself they're alive. And guess what? Your human mind cannot distinguish between fact or fiction. So if you tell your own mind that those people are still alive and relevant, eventually your human body will experience as if they're relevant. But the problem is they're not around. Oh, and here's where it gets interesting. When you tell yourself that, let's say you have, let's take a public figure. Let's take, for example, let's say Malcolm X. A lot of African Americans or Black Americans, they have hold Malcolm X in high regard, or Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, they were leading figures in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Just understand, the 1960s is a long time ago. Those men passed away. Let's say you model yourself after Malcolm X. Okay? Now, you should be inspired by Malcolm X. Reflect on his life and learn from his life. That's what you should do. But you should not model yourself after Malcolm X, being just like him. Let's say you have someone today, I don't care from which ethnicity you are. Let's say you have someone from China learning about Malcolm X, and he models himself after Malcolm X, saying, I want to be a Malcolm X. I want to be just like Malcolm X, but then for my own Chinese people. Now, he should be inspired by Malcolm X, saying, just like it was influential for his people, the Black community, I can be effective also for my own Chinese people. He should be inspired by Malcolm X. But he should not model himself after Malcolm X. Let's say you have this Chinese guy who models himself after Malcolm X. In this case, he's actually telling himself, Malcolm X is still alive. Now, anytime he acts in a way that's not how Malcolm X would have acted, he feels the shock as if Malcolm X will be disappointed at him. So in his mind, Malcolm X now becomes a living memory. The problem is this guy never knew Malcolm X because Malcolm X died decades ago, even before he was born. So what he has in his mind now is a presumption of Malcolm X. And he tells himself that this presumption is the real individual that's alive. That's what he's doing by modeling after Malcolm X. But the thing is, Malcolm X is not around. So now, because he's doing this, there is a dysfunction mentally over here. And evil spirits now can now impersonate Malcolm X and have some type of control over that guy. Now, when a Chinese guy is a bit lazy, he wants to relax, an evil spirit may imitate the voice of Malcolm X and tell them, dude, why aren't you working harder? Why are you doing this? You're disappointing me. And that guy will feel as if it's Malcolm X that's being upset with him. And now he stands up again and he begins to, work harder. So now evil spirits gain a leverage over this guy, and this guy becomes a portal for demons. Not because he's a devil worshiper, not because he's a narcissist, not because he's an evil individual. He can even be a believer with Holy Spirit dwelling in him. But the fact that he's modeling himself after someone who already passed away, now his mind still perceives that individual is relevant, even though the individual is not around anymore. And this error in your mind can now be used by evil spirits to impersonate the dead and have control over you. Is it clear to you all? Is this clear to you all? And at some point, evil spirits are going to appear to you and looking like the individual passed away. For example, that's why you have people that say things as, oh, one of my ancestors is guiding me. Or they will say, my grandma passed away 10 years ago, is watching over me. And all these people say things like that. But the issue is they really believe that someone who passed away is now in spirit form looking after them. And can be indeed that there is a spirit being talking to them or appearing to them. So according to them, it's real. And it is real that a spirit being is talking to them and pushing them. But that spirit being is not the individual who passed away. That spirit being is a fallen angel, evil spirit that impersonates the dead. Just keep a hold on them. So listen, you should be inspired by those who passed away. Absolutely. They live life. So you should regard them. But you can't regard them as someone who's relevant. Let's say you want to become a rock artist and you look up to Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley has been dead for decades. Okay? He's not relevant anymore. He's still significant because his influence is still here, but he's not relevant anymore. For you to model your whole career like after Elvis Presley, first of all, why doing it as an artist? You should be inspired by fellow artists, but don't want to copy them. But when you as a rock artist model yourself of Elvis Presley, now evil spirits can use the impersonation of Elvis Presley to have hold on you and to keep you away from doing God's will. Look, honor your ancestors and be inspired by people who passed away. But when you honor ancestors, I mean, it's an attitude. Because actually honoring them by giving them influence over your life, that's not directly possible because they're not around. Honor them in an attitude of you learn from their life, whether lives were good or bad, and you implement and you become and you learn from their life lessons and you do better today. You can do that, and you should be inspired by people to pass away, but never model yourself after them. If you model yourself after them, you are becoming an open vessel for evil spirits. And a lot of people out there today, they're open vessels for evil spirits. Not because they have Ouija boards, not because they're practicing magic or they're practicing witchcraft and all that, not because they're devil worshippers or not because they're evil, toxic people. A lot of people out there, even many believers out there, are portals for demons because they model themselves after someone who passed away. Look, Jesus is the risen Lord. He's alive. So for you to model yourself after, you should model yourself after the Heavenly Father. Absolutely. Just know when Jesus walked the earth, there were certain things he did back then that only applied for them. You hear me? Not everything Jesus did in his earthly life that you can read about in the Bible in the New Testament applies to you directly. Some of the things Jesus said and did in the New Testament only applied for that situation back then. For you to implement them in today without any context, that's similar to necromancy, similar to worshiping the dead. Even though Jesus was the one who did it. So don't idolize what Jesus did during his lifetime on earth. Okay? That Jesus lived there in Judea and he had disciples does not mean that you have to need to have disciples just like him. That Jesus was the carpenter doesn't mean you have to be a carpenter too. Because we can't all be carpenters. Come on. We need medical doctors, we need musicians, we need anthropologists, we need sociologists, we need nurses. So what I'm saying is, with the life that Christ lived on the earth, seek in context, but follow him directly from his guides directly today. So don't idolize the life of Jesus. That's also what a lot of churches do. It's all clear to you why it is insanity to worship your ancestors. It's insanity not only because it goes against reality, not only because it brings mental difficulties to yourself and physical difficulties to your own physical body. It also disrupts your social relationships now. It hinders you being effective right now. It holds you back. And eventually you become a portal for demons. And demons will use you to hold yourself and others back to. Amen? Well, I need to go now. I'm going to go in prayer again. I'm going further in prayer and fasting now. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this live stream. Again, it's morning over here. Hit the like button, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Don't forget, donate in the links below. If you wish to contribute to the funding of my PhD, write PhD with your donation. And don't forget, you can always check my novels on Amazon. Here are just a few of them, as you can see over here. So, check my novels on Amazon. Very much appreciate it. There are more upcoming very soon. And again, keep agreeing with Christ, and I'll see you next time. Shalom.